it's a great product, but it's not for them. So that helps us avoid that issue. The final issue here is when you think about marketing and how are you going to position the appropriate words and how are you going to deal with the name that you use, is that testing is always the right thing to do. It always makes sense to get people in a room and talk to them. So when in doubt, get them in a room and talk to them quickly. And they'll tell you the answer. You don't have to guess. The second thing I wanted to cover here is a question I get all the time. Who buys from you? Is it the caregiver? Is it the influencer of the kids? Or is it the end user? And for us, the data is overwhelming. 80% of the purchases are by the end user. And it doesn't matter what age group the product's for, it's always the end user that purchases. Why is that? Two reasons. In direct marketing, you want people to be able to make a decision on reading one ad. It's a tough business. They got to read the ad and then buy. And so you don't have time for them to collaborate and make decisions with others. If they're going to talk to others, the purchase generally doesn't happen. The second reason is that we market to fairly active and independent, and if not independent-minded consumers. And so they make the decisions themselves. If they want a product, they buy it. They don't call their kids. They just go ahead and act. The Go computer is a good example. We just sold one to a 100-year-old gentleman last month. And he bought it himself, didn't talk to anyone else, just decided he wanted it, and he bought it. So the end user is our primary customer. Final point is, how do we reach our target audience? We use almost exclusively consumer magazines, 300 consumer magazines. Why? Because the people who read magazines are 55 and above today. That's who does it. That's what we use as a vehicle. We use a 4-color, full-page ad. We tell a story in the ad, and we want people to be able to read the ad, and by the time they're finished, have enough information to be able to make the purchase decision. As Mary said, we reach 100 million. We circulate about 150 million a month. We reach 100 million people roughly a month with our advertising. And if you look at the chart, our most successful, meaning profitable and responsive advertising, is to seniors or the Beyonders in the upper right-hand quadrant using targeted magazines, like if you have a mobility product, a bath lift, Arthritis Today, affinity magazines like VFW. It gives you an implied endorsement. If you have a 4-color, full-page ad in VFW, it's an implied endorsement by the VFW of your product. And then finally, we use some direct mail. We have a harder time reaching the boomer segment. There's not as many magazines that are targeted, but we use mass, parade, newspapers, freestanding inserts. When you get down to the online segment, the traditional methods work, search engine optimization, Google AdWords. When you move back over to the seniors, that's where we have to have a high-touch model. We use chat, we use email, we build all our products that you see ads on, have their own independent sites so that people go right to the site and don't get confused in our homepage and everywhere else, they go right to it. And then finally, we use partnerships. And one of our most successful partnerships so far has been with Caring.com. And so instead of me telling you what they do, I'll let Jill tell you.
So thank you so much. This chart is worth its weight in gold. So I've spent 30 years looking at the market. This chart is really, really important because it really shows you the difference between a boomer and a senior and how to target them. And Mark is one of the most analytical people I know, so you can trust the data here. Now, turning to Jill, I'm going to have Jill tell us a little bit about her background. How many of you are entrepreneurs in the audience? Okay, so Jill, just give us a minute on your entrepreneurial story while Mike puts up your slides.
Okay. Yes, I had a background in the film industry for about 15 years and decided to get a life and came up to San Francisco and started a company with my family and created a company called Gilbert Guide, where we created the largest senior care online directory and started as a review company, and we also created online content, and we grew that, and 4 months ago, we merged with Caring.com. So we all had very, very similar images of where we wanted to take the aging industry online, and so we were really excited by the merger. So that's my background, but...
And now your slides are up. So The caregiving market is 44 million, and Jill is going to talk about how you touch and serve that market.
Great. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Caring.com, if you haven't heard of it. Caring.com is the leading online caregiver website. So we are a site that supports adult children and adult children that are generally caring for their parent, looking for information, or other loved ones. We have an audience of about 700,000 visits a month, and we're growing approximately 10, 20% a month. It varies. The holidays weren't as great to us as it was in October. And let's talk about those visitors. Visitors, a little insight into them. It's a girl. 57% of those are female. 53% of them are above the age of 50, and 29% of them are 35 to 49. One of the most interesting demographics, I think, is that we always think of the sandwich generation as probably our biggest audience, but actually they are not. About 71% do not have children. So let's talk about those visitors, kind of taking you around, because our biggest goal is to convert those visitors into recurring visitors and active members on the site. So they come to our site a variety of different ways, obvious ways, SEO, PR. We syndicate our content to MSN, different partners, things like that. So once they come to our site, we convert them in what we call clever ways. We have checklists, to-do lists, and we also have a great way called Suggests in our newsletters, and we do inline units on topical pages, like a cancer page will have an inline for a cancer Suggests newsletter. So we get people involved immediately. We also have a great program called Caring Candles. I'm going to spend a whole next slide on that, which is a great, clever social media idea. Hopefully this will inspire some ideas of how you guys can kind of get users involved on your site. So moving on from I'll talk about the candles in a second. So Suggest actually keeps you involved every week, coming back to the site, giving you forums to get involved with, because it's not just about the content, it's about forums, creating a support group. And support groups keep people involved with other users on the site, and that, again, people talk about social networks, but our social network, it's when caregiving, it's a different world. So caregiving is not just about chat rooms, it's really about people supporting each other, and we also have experts that do that. So Caring.com is all about support. So let's go on to the Caring Candles, which is an amazing program. We're about 14,400 since I created the slide. 14,400 have been lit to date since June. And what you can do is come to Caring.com and light a candle. And lighting the candle is it could be based on someone's in the hospital, someone has Parkinson's, someone has Alzheimer's, and you can dedicate that candle to anyone. And it's really an interesting program because people actually want to share. I mean, we actually dedicated one to someone who broke their ankle in our office. So it doesn't even have to be, someone who had a bad day. It doesn't have to be disease or about someone who passed away, but you get your own page and you can tell your story about what that person is going through. And what you can do with that is you can actually send someone a hug and a prayer and support that person. So it becomes this real family, so to speak, around the candle. And we have something called an awesome bar. If you look at the bottom, the awesome bar actually appears at the bottom of every one of our pages. And the awesome bar scrolls people's candles of what they lit, and people come back to the site to see if their candle is being scrolled. One of the interesting things about this, we've had about 40% conversion to Facebook, which I think is really interesting because people say, oh, no one in our audience is using social media. Guess what? 40% are. They're sending their candles to Facebook, which I think is great. 2,300 hugs and prayers have been sent, and hugs and prayers aren't just dedicated to Caring Candles. They're around the site. So you're in a forum about, mom is having a difficult day with, she's agitated, and what do I do? Sending that person a hug and a prayer that day, or you can just send a hug. And it's just a really interesting idea. So I think there's a lot of great programs on here, and I think there's a lot of ideas that you can take and utilize on your sites to engage your customer, and also figuring out how to involve Twitter with that and how to involve Facebook. So those are some ideas that we're using to really engage our customer.
And then to kind of marry these two, Mark, when you were looking at a place, when you were looking at how to create a store, what decision did you make?
So So the store solution is carrying needs to be a full solution place that